Sometimes the darkest and scariest entities can be found in places where they are not supposed to be. One of those places is literally cartoons. Like, are you trying to traumatize kids? Today we will see some of the most disturbing creatures or entities in cartoons, explaining what makes them so scary, like the unsettling deer from Adventure Time, the sinister clown that is always watching you, the violing girl. We will see if she's a ghost trapped in the desperation of her last moments, among others just as terrifying. These are so scary that when you go to sleep tonight, you'll hide under your blankets because you're too scared. Not that ever happened to me while editing this video. That's you? Not me. Yeah, definitely not me. One of the scariest characters in Gumball has to be the clown. We have seen him in multiple occasions, sometimes face to face interacting with the boys and leaving some harsh vibes.
Why would you hide a scary clown through a window instead of a beautiful...
But don't get confused, he's not watching Gumball. He's hidden in the corners watching you. A spectrum that enjoys watching others from afar, waiting for the opportunity to scare them. But don't pee your pants just yet, as the reason why he isn't actually that scary is revealed to us in the episode titled The Ghouls. Here Carrie explains that since nobody fears ghosts and ghouls nowadays, many have had to get normal jobs because big boys gotta eat.
Maybe you should try getting a job.
That explains why in another episode we have seen the clown working at children's parties, like the time he bought Alan's parents from Gumball, and its appearances are so slight that they are not so perceived. Not being able to scare anything, a way to make ends meet had to be found. He doesn't seem to be dangerous, so basically he limits himself to observe, without making any kind of harm. Well, except for Alan's parents, and they were really screaming for help, which is really sadistic. Alan didn't actually care, saying that since there are balloons and whatnot. Whoa, who is really the monster here? Adventure Time is definitely a darker show, and although one of the main villains is also one of the scariest entities ever. But today we're talking about the creepy deer from the episode No One Can Hear You, that is considered by many like the most disturbing episode of the show. I like how in Adventure Time there are horrors like the leads, gulps, zombies oozing literal acid out of their mouths, but the entire fan base has collectively agreed that a deer that stands up upright and has fingers instead of paws is the scariest thing in the series. Did you see this definitive proof of how I can read at a 5th grade level? I'm really proud of myself. The episode starts without a context. We just see a deer devastating the Sweet Kingdom, looking to satisfy its craving for sugar. Finn and Jake try to stop it, but the deer manages to seriously injure them, leaving Finn with his legs broken and in a coma. And Jake has a fracture in his skull. My boy's gonna have slower motor skills for the rest of his life, letting us know this motherfucker is not normal. Since the show follows Finn and he was in sleepy time, also known as coma, we don't know what events took place during that time. When he wakes up, there is no one. Seeing Candy Kingdom completely empty was just so eerie. Jake says it's been 6 months, but we don't know if that's really the case since Jake lost all his mental faculties.
I'm a woman!
We then discovered that the deer had been taking everyone to its hiding place in the sewers, creating one of the darkest scenes where everyone is stuck on the walls and the pipes with remains of decomposing candy and the deer's saliva. Ew, imagine the smell. In the end, they managed to defeat the deer with 2 headshots and they throw it into the sewer. The episode is titled No One Can Hear You, and it doesn't refer to Finn or Jake, but the candy people begging for help. One of the many reasons we find this deer so scary is because it resembles on a wall, which is a human being who has the power to shapeshift into an animal, giving really creepy vibes. As I'm showing you from this clip, the deer doesn't seem to attack anyone who's made of candy, of course unless someone tries to stop it, and it has the strength to injure Finn and Jake as we saw. Plus, what's really terrifying is its really creepy intentions.
The deer wanted our sugar, but I didn't give him any, if you know what I mean.
The Huxtables are these really creepy little things that can be seen in the episode Sleep Fighter. These supposedly adorable creatures are from a children's series, which to the surprise of absolutely no one, end up traumatizing Muscle Man to the point of causing him terrible nightmares.
no, bro.
The nightmares being so intense and suffocating, he starts beating everyone in the park at night, like he was a veteran without his meds.
How did you even find out where I live?
Although at first they seem like they're just a part of a weird show made for kids, it is very possible they are more than that, since the guys who appeared on the show look genuinely terrified of the presence of these beings. And after they hug him, he disappears from existence, turning into glitter, which frankly is in a very masculine way of dying. Thing that happens with all the people they hug. Muscle Man was completely traumatized, but not only for watching the complete 8 seasons, but also because somehow in his dreams he is transported to a strange place, like the Backrooms, but with a better color palette and decoration. In that dream he meets the Huxtables, so he must fight for his life or disappear. It is tense, so Dreamcatcher they try to get these entities out of his nightmares, but end up bringing them to their world, where they demonstrate the ability to merge into a giant Huxtable. The good thing is that scripts had the same amount of Dreamcatchers as an average faculty of arts, so they stop them and thus ending this nightmare. However, if you let them catch you, we don't know where you're gonna get transported to. Maybe to the grave, since at that distance who knows what diseases can be spread. In the episode of SpongeBob titled Graveyard Shift, the Krusty Krab is open for 24 hours to make more money. So SpongeBob and Squidward must work all night long. So it'll be like a sleepover, only they'll be sweaty and covered with grease. That was said by SpongeBob, not me by the way. Squidward scares Bob with a hash-slinging slasher story, which leaves SpongeBob really scared. 3 a.m. soon arrived, and the restaurant is now completely devoid of customers or any signs of life, besides SpongeBob and Squidward. Suddenly, the lights begin flickering, and the phone starts ringing but remains silent, making the two really nervous. Suddenly, a strange shadow-covered figure gets out of the bus, which makes them believe it was the hash-slinging slasher. But it turns out to be the most handsome Valorant player, who finally went out to find a job. How great! Although the lights flicker again, revealing the culprit to be none other than this, the vampire Nosferatu, whom with that mischievous smile lets us know that's a thing he usually does. Nosferatu is the villain of a 1922 horror film. It is said that it's one of the most powerful vampires. He has rat claws, as well as the ability to levitate, hypnotize people to turn them into their faithful servants, a very long tongue, for whatever it's worth, superhuman strength despite his slim physique, teleconnected powers, all those things he does, and yet he hasn't treated his alopecia. Come on bro, at least get a 10. Now for the last position, we actually have 2 options from the same show, from a series that was designed to be creepy, and it did just that, really scaring me when I was a little and inoffensive kid. The show is none other than Courage the Cowardly Dog. And rewatching this, I can totally feel how different the vibes are of this great show. This episode begins with the trio standing by a wilting flower, while Muriel reads a prayer about the harvest moon. I don't know if that's like sorcery, but hey, what could go wrong? The three go about continue their usual activities when they start hearing an echo-like voice.
Mommy milkers.
I must be hearing things.
The voice sounds again, and this time angrier. Suddenly, everything starts levitating. At this point with the music and everything, I might or might not be panicking. But it's all good, as Courage crashes the truck into the kitchen like a drunk dad to save the day. They end up in the basement, where there's a ghostly head staring down at them. This being the voice they were hearing, telling them that if they don't grow a single plant by midnight, they will be forced to leave the farm. In this really stressful situation, Courage tries several methods to bring the flower to life, while the old man is trying his best.
Stubborn.
Not a farmer.
Time is up, so the ghost locks them in the basement with extreme heat, so they start melting. Courage is used to sweating and holds a plant under the sweat, making the flower burst to life. Who would have thought that instead of sorcery, the only thing they needed was water? The spirit of the harvest moon is definitely creepy. But I think the next one, that you might already know, and I'm not kidding when I say this, is definitely more horrifying. And that's the Violin Girl. The episode starts with Courage and his owners going to the big stinking city, New York.
Guys, I'm in New York City just hanging out.
where just an average NYC citizen greets them. The not at all suspicious cockroach invites them to a rehearsal room, somewhere in a basement with skeletons and a help sign written in the walls. This being NYC for sure costs more than $3,000 per month. Courage is sent to get a package somewhere in the city, finally getting to this cute red building, which its main door says condemned. Well, that's mad sketchy, but I'm sure here you can find the cheapest heroin in the market. Courage takes the wise decision to ask at the neighbor's doors, finding behind those doors some wild stuff. In one of those doors we see what looks like a girl, who turns to give us a jump scare, causing the straightest of men squeal in fear. Yeah, this scene was so scary that I remembered how my soul left my body when I was a kid. If we go beyond the impression caused by her appearance, we can assume some very unsettling things just by looking at her face, since her eyes, mouth and tongue protrude from her body, maybe a clue of her last moments. And what's really disturbing is that this is not the only time we see her, since she appears in a TV program that the old man was watching, clearly showing her before the tragedy, which leaves us thinking that she used a rope to do, you know what, or someone did that. You can't really run away from her, since she doesn't do anything other than a jump scare, although that might not be a jump scare, but rather she's asking us for help.